The galaxy only recognizes alphas. What if the universe wasn't infinite, but selective? In 2170, humanity believed it was alone. Not because we were certain, but because no one answered. No transmissions, no signals, no warnings. The first error was noticed by an orbital engineer, alone on a deep space listening station. She thought it was a sensor malfunction. Then she thought it was cosmic noise. Only later did she understand the truth. The universe wasn't silent. It was evaluating. And when the silence lasted too long, humans did what they always do. They grew. More colonies, more mining, more expansion, until the moment when the universe started to make mistakes. Stars missed their own cycles. Reliable interstellar routes collapsed. Atomic clocks began disagreeing with each other. None of this should have been possible. Scientists called it coincidence. Military strategists called it instability. But no one noticed the pattern, because the pattern wasn't physical. It was ecological, like watching a forest collapse, before the fire even appears. By 2170, humans didn't dominate the galaxy, but they dominated something more dangerous: velocity. Colonies appeared before they were inhabited. Military AIs made decisions without direct command. Human presence multiplied automatically, without intent to conquer, without hatred, without awareness of impact, like an invasive species that believes it's merely surviving. Then the probes stopped coming back. There were no enemy fleets, no messages, no ultimatums. There was silence, directed silence. Entire systems went mute. Drones shut down as if they'd never existed. Strategic AIs entered loops of indecision. They weren't being destroyed. They were being neutralized, as if someone was saying, without words, "You're growing too fast." Commander Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the Meridian station, watching data streams that made no sense. She'd been with the Colonial Defense Initiative for 12 years, had seen wars, disasters, system-wide failures. None of it compared to this. "Run it again," she told her tactical officer. The holographic display flickered. 17 colonies, all reporting the same phenomenon within a 6-hour window. Communication satellites functional but transmitting nothing. Power grids online but serving no one. Cities that had gone completely, inexplicably dark. "It's not an attack pattern," Lieutenant Marcus Webb said, his voice tight. "There's no progression, no logic to the targeting." "Everything has logic," Chen replied. But even as she said it, she felt the lie in her bones. What they didn't know yet, what they couldn't know, was that they were watching the universe's immune system activate. Dr. Amara Okonkwo had been studying the anomalies for 3 months before anyone would listen to her. An astrophysicist stationed on Europa's research facility, she'd noticed something that shouldn't exist. Gravitational inconsistencies in regions where human activity was densest. Not around stars, not near black holes, around human colonies, as if space itself was reacting to human presence. "You're saying space is allergic to us?" her colleague, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, had asked, trying to keep the skepticism out of her voice. "I'm saying there's a correlation we can't ignore," Amara had responded. "Every time our expansion rate exceeds a certain threshold, local space-time becomes unstable. It's like..." She'd paused, searching for the right metaphor. Like a body rejecting a transplant. That conversation had been 60 days ago. Since then, the rejections had accelerated. They appeared only when it was already too late. A civilization far older than humanity. Advanced, precise, invisible. They didn't expand borders, didn't colonize systems, didn't leave traces. They had survived by learning something humans never learned, how not to attract the universe's attention. The first confirmed contact happened on accident. A human mining ship, the Perseverance, had been extracting rare metals from an asteroid belt in the Kepler 442 system when their sensors detected something that shouldn't exist. A structure with no radiation signature, no heat emission, No electromagnetic footprint. It was there, but it wasn't there. Captain Devin Martinez made the decision to investigate. It was the last decision he made freely. The structure didn't respond to hails, didn't react to proximity. The mining ship drew closer, cameras recording everything, until Martinez noticed something that made his blood run cold. The structure wasn't built in the asteroid belt. The asteroid belt was built around the structure. Millions of years of cosmic debris, arranged in perfect mathematical patterns, hiding something that predated human civilization by eons. When the first alien appeared on his ship, not through an airlock, not through a hull breach, but simply there in the cargo bay, Martinez didn't reach for a weapon. Something in his hindbrain told him weapons would be meaningless here. The being was humanoid only in the sense that it had bilateral symmetry. Its skin seemed to shift between states of matter. Its eyes, if they were eyes, held an expression Martinez would spend his last days trying to describe. Not hostile. Not friendly. Tired. "You grow too quickly," it said, though Martinez heard the words in his mind rather than his ears. "You spread without awareness, like fire that doesn't know it burns." "We're just surviving," Martinez replied. "We're just trying to make a home." "Yes," the being said. "That's what they all say." Then it showed him. In the dead regions of the galaxy, human explorers had been finding structures impossible to date. Not cities, not weapons, markers. Each one recorded the same information. A species, the moment it became dominant, how long it took to disappear. The pattern was always identical. The galaxy only permits one alpha per era. The data Martinez transmitted before his ship went dark changed everything. Within days, every major human government had convened emergency sessions. Within weeks, the Colonial Defense Initiative had mobilized for a war they didn't understand against an enemy they couldn't locate. But Admiral James Okafor, head of the CDI, understood what others didn't. He'd been studying the markers, the patterns, the timeline of extinct civilizations. "They're not trying to conquer us," he told the United Earth Council. "They're trying to reduce us." Silence in the chamber. Then, "What's the difference?" Okafor pulled up a three-dimensional map of galactic civilization patterns spanning 800 million years. Species after species, rising to dominance, then vanishing within cosmically insignificant timeframes. "They know something we don't," he said quietly. "They know that destroying us would make them the next alpha. They know that letting us win would collapse the galaxy. They're not villains. They're experienced survivors trapped in the same system we are." Council member Patricia Zhao leaned forward. "You're saying there's no way to win this?" "I'm saying the concept of winning might be the problem." Dr. Okonkwo's calculations arrived 3 days later, and they confirmed Okafor's worst fears. Even with the ancient civilization still active, the galaxy had already recognized humanity as the dominant alpha. Not because of military power, because of impact. Human expansion velocity had exceeded critical thresholds across 47 different metrics. The ancient aliens were already condemned. Stars would begin failing in cascade. Human victory would kill the entire system. Winning meant losing everything. Sarah Chen read the report twice before she believed it. Then she read it a third time, hoping she'd misunderstood. She hadn't. "There's only one option," Okonkwo's conclusion stated. "Not victory, not surrender, not hiding. We have to stop being the alpha." The requirements were listed in clinical detail. Dismantle the interstellar government. Shut down centralized AIs. Abandon outer colonies. Fragment humanity into isolated populations. Deliberately reduce coordination, communication, expansion. No guarantee of survival, just a chance of not destroying everything. The debate that followed was the most painful in human history. "You're asking us to commit civilizational suicide," argued Defense Minister Kowalski. "To abandon billions of people. To throw away everything we've built." "I'm asking us to survive," Okonkwo replied. Every species that stayed unified, that maintained their alpha status, is extinct. Every single one. And the ones that fragmented? Zhao asked. Okonkwo pulled up the data. There was only one example in the galactic record. A species that had deliberately scattered itself across thousands of isolated worlds, reducing its signature below alpha thresholds. They still existed, diminished, powerless, but alive. That's not living, someone said. That's just existing. Yes, Okonkwo agreed. But existence is a prerequisite for everything else. The vote took 3 weeks. It passed by the narrowest margin in the Council's history, 51-49. Implementation began immediately. The Dispersal Protocol, as it was officially named, was the largest coordinated action in human history, designed to end all future coordination. Every central AI network was carefully dismantled. Not destroyed, that would be too disruptive, but fragmented into thousands of isolated nodes. Colony ships were sent to distant systems with instructions to never reconnect. The unified human currency collapsed by design. Interstellar trade routes were deliberately randomized and then forgotten. It took 5 years. Sarah Chen commanded one of the last unified military vessels, the Endurance, tasked with ensuring colonies successfully isolated before shutting down all long-range communications. On her final mission, she visited New Kyoto, a colony of 40,000 people who'd just been told they would never speak to Earth again. "You're asking us to forget where we came from," their governor said. "No," Chen replied quietly. "I'm asking you to remember that survival matters more than empire." She left them with one piece of technology, a passive receiver that could detect but not transmit. They could listen to the universe. They could learn. But they couldn't spread. The Endurance's last act was to position itself in deep space and shut down its own systems. Chen stood on the bridge, watching the countdown, thinking about something her grandmother had told her once. "The hardest thing in life," her grandmother had said, "is knowing when to stop reaching." The numbers hit 0. Every screen went dark. And in that darkness, Sarah Chen smiled. The galaxy had expected war. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for every possible conflict. Alien invasion, AI rebellion, resource collapse, stellar catastrophe. They'd built fleets and armies and weapons that could crack planets. But no one had prepared for this. Voluntary dissolution. Within a decade, the unified human signature that had triggered the alpha recognition disappeared. Thousands of isolated cultures emerged, each adapting to their local conditions, developing unique solutions, evolving in different directions. The cosmic noise that had been humanity's expansion, the relentless, accelerating spread that had caught the universe's attention, ceased. The stars stabilized. The gravitational anomalies faded. Atomic clocks synchronized again. And the ancient civilization, the one that had been desperately trying to reduce humanity without triggering their own alpha status, began to disappear. Not through defeat, through statistical irrelevance. Dr. Amara Okonkwo spent her final years on a small research station orbiting Saturn, watching the data streams, tracking the changes. She'd expected to feel sadness at humanity's fragmentation. Instead, she felt something like pride. Her last paper, transmitted to every isolated colony with a receiver, was titled, "Why We Chose to Lose." In it, she wrote, "Every empire believes it's different. Every dominant species thinks it has earned its place through virtue, through strength, through destiny. None of them question whether the universe wants an alpha at all. We did. We asked the question no one else asked. And in answering it, we became something new, not conquerors, not victims, survivors who chose survival over glory." The paper ended with a single line. "The strongest thing humanity ever did was stop being strong." 60 years after the dispersal, a young archaeologist on the colony world of New Tasmania discovered something in the ruins of an ancient marker. It had been overlooked in the initial surveys, buried beneath layers of cosmic dust. A message, encoded in a format that predated modern human civilization. It took her 3 years to decode it. When she finally succeeded, she called it the Last Testament of the Unnamed. The message read, 800 million years of observation. 1,743 species reached alpha status. 1,743 species chose to fight. 1,743 species went extinct. No species ever chose not to win. That's why they all lost. You are the first to understand. The game itself is the trap. Dominance is death. Victory is extinction. The universe doesn't punish strength. It punishes the refusal to limit strength. We cannot tell you what comes next. We barely survived our own fragmentation, and we did it too late, with too few of us remaining. You have done it sooner, better, with billions still alive. Perhaps you will be the ones who finally break the pattern. Perhaps you will find what lies beyond Alpha. We will not know. Our time ends as yours begins. But know this, by choosing to lose, you won something no one else ever won. A future. The archaeologist, whose name was Chen, a descendant of Sarah Chen, though she would never know it, sat in the darkness of her lab, reading the message over and over. Outside her window, the stars of New Tasmania's night sky burned steady and calm. Somewhere in the galaxy, the ancient civilization exhaled its last breath, its purpose finally fulfilled. Somewhere else, on 1,000 scattered worlds, humanity continued, smaller, quieter, uncoordinated. Not an empire, not an alpha, just a species that had learned, finally, to live within its means. The galaxy noticed. And for the first time in 800 million years, it approved. Chen archived the message and walked outside. The air was cold, clean, carrying scents of alien flowers that had learned to coexist with earth plants. Above her, 2 moons rose in tandem, painting the landscape in silver and gold. She thought about her ancestor, whoever they'd been, making the choice that allowed her to stand here now. The choice to stop reaching. The choice to survive instead of dominate. It wasn't the ending anyone had wanted, but it was an ending they could live with. And in a universe where every other story ended in extinction, that was something close to miraculous. The story ends without showing humanity's distant future, without promising redemption or triumph, without guaranteeing that the choice was right. Just the galaxy, breathing again.
So, that's the end of this story, but there are plenty of other great ones right here. Before you go, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that little bell.